Coming up on today's Locked On Angels, what can the Halos do to improve their bullpen this offseason? They've already done a couple of moves, but there's a couple of more things they should probably do. Let's take a look at some of the candidates right now on Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Locked On Angels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. 5 days a week of Angels coverage right here on YouTube and, of course, on our audio podcast platforms everywhere for free. I'm Steve Granado. You can shoot me a follow over on Twitter at Steve Granado, Granado. Okay, let's take a look at some bullpen stuff right now. Angels are starting to construct their roster, obviously, for 2022. Yes, I know we're in a lockout, but that lockout's going to end eventually, and they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do bullpen-wise. Here in this first part, we're going to take a look at what the Angels have right now so we can get a better idea here from the 40-man moving forward, see what options the Angels have in-house. Then we're immediately going to take a look at some of the top free agent guys that they need to go after, I think personally. And then in our second segment, we'll take a look at some of the trade targets, not the free agents, but some trade targets the Angels might be targeting or should be targeting, and then we'll give you our conclusion at the end. So let's go ahead and start with, let's look at the Angels 40-man right now and see what the Angels have in-house for their bullpen options, at least that we know that are confirmed for 2022. Okay, obviously, Raisel Iglesias, right? He's the closer, straight up, 4 years, boom, done. You have that locked down. You already know. The Angels obviously already signed Aaron Loup. Aaron Loup, couple of years on that deal. He is now the setup man. At least that's the way it looks. So your 8th and 9th innings, locked up, clean, ready to go, and that's a big get. That's a big move forward for the Angels. So you have Loup in the 8th, 7th, 8th, whatever it ends up being. He's usually a one-inning kind of guy, but if he has to, he has to. And then Raisel, obviously, going to close it down in the 9th. So having that 1-2 punch at the back end is huge. Here are the other options the Angels have on their 40-man currently that look to be contenders for bullpen spots in 2022. Austin Warren, Andrew Wantz, Kyle Tyler, Jose Suarez, Jose Quijada, Elvis Peguero, Oliver Ortega, Packy Naughton, Mike Myers, Jose Marte, Jimmy Herget, and Jonathan Diaz. Of these 12 players that I just named, 6 of them have less than 10 games of Major League experience. So that is where the Angels lack in their bullpen right now, is that experience, right? 6 of those guys, Tyler, Peguero, Ortega, Naughton, Marte, and Diaz, all have 10 games or less of Major League experience. Of those 12 also that I named, the Angels are very right-handed heavy right now. Of those 12, 9 righties and 3 lefties. Obviously, they have Aaron Loup, who's a lefty, and Raisel, who is a righty. But they are very right-handed heavy right now. So that is where we're going to start here. Let's start and look at some of the left-handed options. Yes, they already got the top left-handed guy on the market in Aaron Loup. So that was really good. Bullpen-wise, that's the top left-handed guy. Got him locked down. Other guys I've seen floated, and the top one for me right now is Andrew Chafin. He was on the Cubs and the A's last year. He's a free agent, and he's going to be 32 come June. So 31, 32-year-old season. He's probably going to command a 2 or 3 year deal at this point. That's what it looks like. I'm learning some stuff here from MLB trade rumors about him, and that looks to be the case. He's looking for maybe a 2-year deal. Mid-90s fastball, low 80s slider, and they pair really well together. Andrew Chafin is one of those guys that's been tried and true over the last couple of years. Did it well for the Cubs, did it well for the A's. And get this, here's 2021. 0.932 whip. So that number, that's walks and hits per innings pitched, and that's a number personally I look at a lot when I am looking at a pitcher's ability to keep guys off the bases, right? That's walks and hits per innings pitched. Essentially, how many guys get on base per inning. And if he's keeping that under 1, I mean, that is top tier echelon of guys that you're looking at. So Andrew Chafin is a guy that would be an absolutely massive boon to the Angels on the reliever front. So that's definitely a guy that I'm looking at. And what's really interesting about him too is this past year, personal low of walks per batter. 7.1% of batters were walks. So that contributes to that whip, obviously. So Andrew Chafin is definitely a guy that is on the list right now. Gotta imagine the Angels are at least thinking about him right now. Yes, they cannot negotiate for a major league spot right now because of the lockout, but once that lockout ends, Andrew Chafin's stock is going to be pretty high, especially considering that Aaron Loop is already on the Angels. So if the Angels can get Chafin, there's your seventh inning right there. So you go Chafin, Loop, Iglesias. I mean, that is as locked down as you could possibly get right now. So that would be absolutely massive. Obviously, the Angels aren't going to be the only guy looking at him. Other guys that are available, Brooks Raley, a guy that you may be familiar with, pitched with Houston. He's going to be 34. He was at the Astros last year. Strikeout rate was near the top of his career in 2021. So that's a good sign. It wasn't the tip top, but I mean, it was right there, just a couple percentage points away. He punched out 31.7 opposing batters, generating whiffs on 14.5% of his offerings. That's 40th in the 255 relievers candidates that he is a part of, 30-plus innings pitched. So he is near the top echelon of guys that's getting whiffs. And something that the Angels, I mean, any team would always love to have is guys that are generating more swinging strikes, right? So Brooks Raley is a guy, yes, he's a little bit on the older side. He's in his mid-30s at this point, or will be in 2021. So he is not as, again, this is why I put Chafin at the top at this point. But Brooks Raley is also up there as a guy that the Angels would have as a left-handed option. Already familiar with the AL West, obviously, because he's in Houston, but a free agent target the Angels might go after. So these are the top two guys that I have. Again, we're looking for the Angels to get a little bit more depth on the left-handed side because they are so right-handed heavy. So adding one of these guys, I think, would be a really massive boon right now to try and get some more veteran presence in that back end, and especially get a left-handed arm. This holiday season, grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar or even better than a candy bar. Built Bar is filled with so much holiday goodness, rich and decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, and of course, high in protein. It's the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. And there's a bunch of different flavors you can choose from: raspberry, mint brownie, cherry, double chocolate, cookies and cream, peanut butter brownie. There's a bunch of them. You're bound to love one of them at least. Built Bar gives you that extra feel you need to bust down those mall doors and battle the holiday shoppers. Just throw one in your jacket, throw one in your purse. You never know when you're going to need it. And of course, don't forget to tell Santa to throw a couple Built Bars in those stockings this Christmas. With so many flavors, they'd make anyone's Christmas morning a happy one. Some of those marshmallowy treats from the holidays, yeah, Built Bar's got those too. The Built Bar Puffs, they're light, fluffy, and marshmallowy through and through. And they got a bunch of different flavors. They're all covered in chocolate. I promise you're going to love them. Here's an offer for you. You can get 15% off your order at Built.com using promo code LOCKED15. That's Built.com, promo code LOCKED15, and get 15% off your order. Back here on Locked On Angels, your first listen of the day. Steve Granado with you here in the Locked On Podcast Network. Okay, trade targets as promised. There's a couple of trade targets that the Angels are going to look at trades, right? They're obviously going to look at trades moving forward and see if they can get better in this regard. Relievers typically aren't going to garner like the big massive deals, right? Because they're guys that, yeah, they're relievers. They're specialty guys. They come in every now and then. So they're not like your big trade targets of getting like a starter or getting a left fielder. Those guys are going to warrant something bigger in return. These guys are probably you're going to want to get something back from. But here's some of the guys that I think the Angels could be looking at. Cole Sulser. Baltimore Orioles, right-handed reliever, mid-90s fastball with arm side run, and it's got a ton of spin. So he's not a guy that's really going to blow anyone away. But he has a really high spin rate. That ball moves a ton, and it works really well up in the zone. That's what made him successful in 2021. He's got a fastball slider change, and that slider is definitely a go-to pitch he has with two strikes. This guy is going to be one of the top targets right now of the potential trade market, especially if you're looking for a reliever. Again, this is a right-hander, so the Angels will have to get another right-hander here, but with a guy like this, it seems like it's going to be worth your while. He's a guy that looked really good in Baltimore this year, and this may not be a guy that the Orioles would be 100% looking at moving right away because he still has a couple of years of control. So he might be a little bit harder to sway. You might have to throw in a little bit more to get him to your team. But they're definitely going to listen. The Orioles are definitely going to listen. They're not going to contend here in the next couple of years, maybe in the next 2 years. So, having Cole Sulser right now doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense for them. As far as, 2022, maybe even 2023, they're maybe looking at 2024, potentially, maybe 2023 if they're lucky. But right now, it doesn't seem like Cole Sulser is like a guy that's going to be super crucial to the team next year. So it may be someone the Orioles are listening on. I'm going to leave links to some of these guys in our on our YouTube side in the episode description, so you can go catch some videos of these guys pitching. I can't include them in here for copyright purposes, but go check out those videos. You will definitely see what I'm looking at and going, okay, yeah, these guys are pretty legit. So that's Cole Sulser again. I will link that down in the episode description. Okay, another guy on Baltimore that I'm looking at as well is Tanner Scott. This is a left-hander, so it might be a little more enticing for the Angels. Left-hander, and this is a guy that the Orioles were fielding offers from during the deadline and ultimately decided not to move. If you look up his numbers, Baseball Reference, Fangraphs, or whatever you're going to look at, here's some caution there. The numbers were not great in 2021. That's because he had a pretty rough second half of the season. But that kind of works on its flip side. The first half looked really good. Might work on its flip side here by going, okay, might be a little bit easier because the stock goes down a little bit, just a little bit. Maybe take one less arm or one less prospect to send over there to get a guy like Tanner Scott. He's another fastball slider guy, like many of these guys that I've talked about already. And weirdly enough, in 2021 was the first time in his career he threw more sliders than fastballs. But his slider's a little different than, your Cole Sulsers or any of the guys I've mentioned already. His slider's a little loopier. It's a little more loopy. So it's not going to be one of those like tight, like those little tight sliders that break in and out. His kind of just flops up and back down. And it's really pretty. Again, I'll link some videos in the episode description. But yeah, Tanner Scott, Cole Sulser are some of the guys that maybe the Baltimore Orioles might be willing to move right now and might be some of the top younger guys that the Angels would be looking at to kind of pair with potentially some of those stronger veteran presences in the back like Iglesias and Loop. And then I got one more guy that I'm looking at, and he's another young dude. He's going to be 25 next year from the Cleveland Guardians, Nick Sandlin, right-handed sidearmer, and I think this guy might be a great replacement for Steve Cishek. A sidearm right-hander, the Angels would love to have an extra look at a sidearmer, right? That is just it's such a benefit. It's not a crucial thing to have for every team, but getting that extra look, that different look is just, it works really well for series, especially because you start seeing the same arm slot over and over and over again, and then you finally get a different guy who can throw some guys off for an inning or two. So Nick Sandlin, a guy to potentially look out for. Hard whipping arm action. Like he's got a really hard whip to his right arm, and it makes it work really, really well with his slider. His slider is in the upper 70s, low 80s, and it's like super knee buckling. So definitely something that is unique, right? If the Angels are getting a bunch of hard throwing slider, fastball kind of guys, this is a guy that would just completely throw a wrench into that system. Nick Sandlin, Sandlin, mid-90s sinker, and that with that arm slot, it's really low, obviously against side armor, so that works really well with that sinker. And especially considering that the Guardians aren't really going to contend in 2022, it doesn't seem that way. This might be a guy the Angels might look at. So again, those trade targets that I've laid out for you here today, that's Cole Sulser and Tanner Scott from the Baltimore Orioles and Nick Sandlin from the Cleveland Guardians. Some guys that might garner some attention, especially from other clubs, but the Angels can snag one of them, then add to that, on the free agent side, that's going to start looking pretty good. This episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues the march to the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. Basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC, and even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Back here on Locked On Angels, your first listen of the day. Hey, if you're on our YouTube side, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that like button and send a comment down below. It really helps us out. We're a small channel that's still growing, so we appreciate all your support here on YouTube and, of course, on our audio side as well. Make sure to hit auto downloads. That way you get a new episode every morning when you wake up for your commute. Okay, let's go ahead and digest this a little bit. Some of the things I've talked about, I've laid out here about the Angels bullpen. This is what I'm getting at. The bullpen is not very far away from being a very solid part of the Angels team, right? With Loop and Iglesias now in the 8th and 9th, presumably, or, however that shakes out, if Loop ends up getting the 7th or however it works out, lefty-righty matchups and stuff, they're pretty decent if they can grab a couple of guys here, right? A couple of, maybe 2, maybe 3 at max, but there's a lot of depth right now in the Angels system here. Yes, granted, again, 6 of those 12 that we have laid out on the 40-man have less than 10 games experience. So that is definitely the downside of the Angels bullpen. Yes, they are young and promising, but that's kind of where it ends right there, right? There isn't a ton of experience, especially at the major league level. That's why you started to see the Angels really calling guys up, because I think they're going 2022, 2023. Those are some of the years that we're really considering to be strong contention years. So that's likely why we started seeing all those guys really getting called up. Yes, we saw some relievers get called up, and obviously we saw some starters. We're talking about relief right now. But those young arms are still coming. And what's interesting about everything that we've laid out here today as well is we didn't even mention some of the guys that might move out of the rotation. If the Angels end up getting another starter, that could bump some guys out. It could shift some things around. And there's definitely some names of some guys that can flip back and forth between relieving and starting. So one of those great examples is Michael Lorenzen, right? Might be a guy, yes, he's going to start and he's going to get the full opportunity to start in 2022. Presumably, that's everything we've heard so far. But potentially that is another guy that could be a very strong asset in the bullpen. So that's just one of the names. There's many of them, some guys have started their entire careers in the minors, but there's some guys like a Cooper Criswell has started majority of his minor league career, but he could be a guy potentially the Angels go, you know what, let's try you in a relief role. There are guys like that in the Angels organization, especially the younger guys who are just begging to get major league experience, that could certainly help out in the Angels bullpen front, especially if you look later into the season. Once you get into September and things like that, their minor league seasons are ending. Now they call them up and try and figure something out in that regard. So that is a big point for the Angels right now. And obviously injuries happen to every team, so you always want to have that depth. And one other thing to consider here is, yes, there's still no Chris Rodriguez to begin the season. We know that he's not going to be there for the beginning of the season. And the Angels might get him back at some point in 2022, and that might feel a little bit like a trade deadline acquisition. If the Angels get Chris Rodriguez, let's say August, let's say he's back in August. If I'm just spitballing here, I have no idea when he would potentially be back. But let's say they get him back. That feels like we got a big trade, right? It feels like the Angels end up landing a really big trade in that spot. So that is something obviously to consider as you move deeper towards the end of the season and you're starting to see if the Angels are in contention at that point. Chris Rodriguez being added back to the roster could feel really, really good. And especially with guys in the dog days getting a fresh arm, that might be really nice. But remember, bullpen depth is the part of the organization that the Angels are strongest in. The last year, 2021, with the draft and just the way the Angels have drafted and traded over the last couple of years and really focused on pitching, there is a lot of options right now. There's a lot of young options. And with the game getting younger and younger and young arms, hard-throwing right-handers, hard-throwing left-handers being a big part of today's game, this is where the Angels' assets lie. So you're starting to see the fruits of the labors over the last couple of years really starting to pay off. So let me know how you feel about this kind of stuff down below. I'm excited about the Angels bullpen. Are you excited about the Angels bullpen and what the prospect of the Angels moving forward is? It's interesting time right now. A lot of young arms in the Angels pen. If you aren't watching here on YouTube and you're listening on the other side, send me a tweet at Locked On Angels or at Steve Granado, GRANDDO, or even better yet, give me a call. Tell me how you feel about the Angels bullpen moving forward. You could be featured on an future episode. 714-409-6396. That's 409-6396. It's in the episode description. Don't forget to check out my other podcasts, which are also in that episode description. Our Game and Movies I Should Have Watched. Movies I Should Have Watched is obviously a movie podcast, and Our Game is a baseball podcast, a docuseries, 8-part docuseries about the history of the game. You should check out both of them. I promise you will enjoy both of them. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us in today's Locked On Angels. Thanks for checking us out. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and, of course, that like button, and leave a comment down below. We are a small channel, still growing, so we appreciate all the support. All right, guys, we'll talk to you 5 days a week still here on Locked On Angels of Angels baseball coverage. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow, but until then, I'm Steve Granado. Later.